The 1700s was an age of enlightenment, the time where the Industrial Revolution began and human beings were very optimistic about life getting better and happier for the majority. Although a few others had contrary opinions. One of them was a political economist named Thomas Malthus, who was particularly concerned about the negative futuristic effects of humans breeding like rabbits at the time, or better still, the excessive growth of human population. Hello people of the world, and welcome to episode 8 of HMIH podcast with Damila Imapa. So today's influential human is quite interesting and has a really broad history in relation to what made him really influential till today. But like always, I'm focusing on the most relevant and interesting facts. And trust me, it's going to be really interesting if you're a fan of learning new things and if you get thought-provoked by a lot of thought-provoking things. So Thomas Malthus, full name Thomas Robert Malthus, born on February 14th, 1766. He was the sixth child of Henrietta Catherine Graham and Daniel Malthus. He grew up in a small country house in Surrey, England. He was educated mostly at home before gaining admission into Jesus College, Cambridge, in 1784, where he studied a wide range of subjects and won prizes in Latin, Greek, and graduated with honors in 1788. Malthus earned his Master of Arts degree in 1791, got elected a Fellow of Jesus College in 1793, and took holy orders in the Church of England in 1797. So it's relevant to know that he was a Christian minister. As a demographer and political economist, he wrote papers and essays of human population and its effects and relation to its economic environment. But of all his numerous works, the most controversial was his 1798 book, an essay on the principle of population. During the late 18th century, Malthus observed that an increase in a nation's food production increased its population, but he had pessimistic opinions on the increasing prosperous population. In his book, Malthus said that population grows geometrically, that is, in multiples, for example, 2 times 2 times 4 times 8 times 16, which would give quite a large number at the end of the day. While food supply tends to grow arithmetically, that is something like addition, for example, 2 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8 plus 16, which actually gives a lesser number than the geometric growth of population. So in other words, if these two factors of population and food supply are compared in relation to time, there will be a big tendency that in the future, humans will probably end up resulting to cannibalism, that is, eating of other humans. Well, that's actually not the result of what he said, but I just guessed it could probably mean that also, since he proposed that human population would drastically overgrow the amount of food available, which would eventually result in the drastic death of human beings due to poverty and starvation. Yes. Unless measures were put into place to curb the drastic growth in population. Also in his book, Malthus said that there are natural checks to prevent human population, which are starvation, disease, and war. And weirdly, he termed them as positive natural checks. I'm sure you'd understand why it sounds weird. Malthus finally concluded that instead of just waiting for natural checks that are quite painful and devastating, we should follow some preventive man-made checks to curb the blooming population. And due to the fact that he was a Christian minister, he wasn't in support of abortion or most birth control measures at the time. And of course, the pill hadn't been invented yet. So he suggested 2 other ways to curb the blooming population, which are number 1, abstinence from sex, and number 2, late marriages. I'm sure this would sound funny to anyone listening as it was to me when I first heard it, because as at 2020, almost everyone never follows these laws and so many people give birth outside wedlock. Too bad. Malthus' pessimistic theory on growing population is said to have influenced the ideology of Thanos in Avengers. I'm sure you know Thanos. Although without all the magic stones and bizarre solution of zapping half of the world's population, even though Malthus had his own weird and cruel thoughts. So stats check. It is 2020 and 222 years after Malthus's predictions on decline of human population due to food scarcity. And it turns out that he was actually wrong about that theory, because as at March 2020, human population is said to be about 7.8 billion and still counting, Well, he was right about population growing substantially because, weirdly and interestingly, it took over 200,000 years of human history for the world's population to reach 1 billion and only 200 years more to reach about 7 billion. Just 200 years. But how come food scarcity wasn't a problem? Well, this is due to so many reasons that Malthus missed, such as the Industrial Revolution, advancement in technology and innovation, increase in literacy, the Agricultural Revolution, and so much more. Although there are still billions of people affected by starvation and poverty till this current moment, but this has more to do with the distribution of wealth and resources in different regions of the world and other factors other than population growth. Malthus' theory on population decline might have been wrong, but there is no doubt that the dramatic increase in population could cause devastating consequences in the future unless there is a technological invention that allows us to live comfortably in Mars or any other planet. So Malthus later died suddenly of heart disease on 29 December 1834 at his father-in-law's house. Some of his other works include The Present High Price of Provisions in 1800, Observation on the Effects of Corn Laws in 1814, Principles of Political Economy in 1820, and so on. You can still study more about his other ideologies if you are interested in learning more about this influential human. But that will be all on this episode of History's Most Influential Humans with yours truly. Till next time, fam. Stay enlightened. Peace.